everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Teens4Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Ethan, and joining me as my co-host today is Grace. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I caught a lizard today. I'm very happy. It was a Great Basin whiptail, and it's an awesome species I've been trying to get my hands on because it's been a while since I've caught one.
That's awesome.
Caught it under my friend's trampoline. He bit me. Mostly because I stuck my finger in his mouth, but...
Okay. Today's podcast is sponsored by Stand for Kind. Take a stand against bullying in your school and help spread kindness and positivity by visiting www.standforkind.com.
Join the Stand for Kind community hosted by Geneva. All it takes is one click and you can connect with and make new friends, video chat, and join conversations about the casual to trending topics, mental health, anti-bullying, and more. Join the community at www.standforkind.com.
As human beings, we face a lot of pressure. The pressure to succeed, the pressure to live up to expectations placed on us by parents, teachers, bosses, and even friends. Henry Kissinger said, "A diamond is a chunk of coal that did really well under pressure." What are your thoughts, Ethan?
I've been pressured all my life to do certain things. I mean, I have a YouTube channel that I must upload every week to keep consistent, and it is what makes me and my family money. Here's a good story. I know I'm rambling here, but I have a great story about, I'd say, the time I was put on pressure the most.
Okay.
I was on a show in China called Fantastic Baby. And basically it's just a bunch of kids who are really talented and they want to show their talents. And I was lucky enough to get that opportunity, so I flew all the way to China and was on this show. And let me tell you, it was terrifying because, first of all, it's a very different culture, and even our translator was... She was all right. Second of all, the food there was It's not like Chinese. If you the first thing we had when we got back from China was Panda Express, because it's not even. You can see him laughing. It's not even real Chinese food. It's American food. That's what we like. So we're just Chinese food is nothing close, and we were so excited to get to Panda Express when we got back. We were such Americans. Anyway,
Okay.
The pressure that I'm referring to is when I was there. One of the things I was not told, and I didn't know when going there, was you don't drink the water, and so I had gotten sick from doing that. And if it wasn't that, then it was from something else. I was sick. I was feeling terrible. I almost threw up. It was not fun. And they still needed to get some shots, and they still needed me to perform. So the pressure was based. I was between a rock and a hard place. The rock is me being forced to perform in front of literally millions of people in China see this show. And so I vomit in front of millions of Chinese people, or I decide I can't do it and have to pay them thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lots of pressure. So I would say that that's some of the most pressure I've been in. But I felt really happy I got very lucky in the sense that I felt better and I didn't feel as sick, and I was able to perform. And we didn't have to pay them thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Well, that was an awesome story and experience. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Our guest today has been in the entertainment industry for most of his life, starring in the Disney Channel series Stuck in the Middle and the Netflix series Fuller House. Please welcome to the podcast actor, musician, and social media influencer, Isaak Presley. How you doing, dude?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I am doing all right.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Why are you laughing so hard when I told you about the Panda
Express
thing?
The Panda kill. Because that's just something. It's like, because it reminded me. I went to Mexico, and
really?
I stayed in a resort. This was last year. I went to Mexico, stayed in a resort, And we were in Mexico. We did the whole experience, and I realized very like on our last day, I was like, I have not had any authentic Mexican food this trip. And then we went somewhere, and we ended up eating like seafood. I think we had like shrimp tacos or something like that.
Okay.
Nice.
Ate like two of them, went out, had a flight, flew back home. We were all in the car, super tired. It was like 2 a.m. We're all starving. And the first thing we did is we went to Taco Bell. So when you said Panda Express, it made me think exactly of that. I spent
Perfect.
my entire trip in Mexico. I ate real legit Mexican food one
Nice.
time, got back just to eat Taco Bell.
That's
Like,
awesome, dude.
but no, Panda Express is that hits. I love it.
It's
I love Panda Express. Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thanks for talking with us.
Oh, no.
A new segment on our podcast is Quick Questions. It's a way for us to break the ice a bit before we get into the actual interview. So
Okay.
here's our first question. What is your favorite personal possession and why?
My guitar, because it's like the most personal thing I have. I like put all my emotions into it. And it doesn't judge me. It just helps me. Yeah, my guitar for sure.
Yeah. I love music. I think it's such a great way to express yourself.
I listen to it all the time, and it's amazing how much music can influence the way you feel. Like if you want to be a sad person, just listen to some depressing music, and boom. If you want to be pumped up and you can do 7 backflips on the ground, listen to some dubstep, and you're there. Like it works like a charm.
Wow.
It's true. Yeah. You know, I've
Definitely.
never tried dubstep. I'll have to try that.
What I listen to is sort of dubstep. I don't exactly know 100% what it would be, but it works really well. Rap does the same for me as well.
Oh, okay.
If you had 25 hours in a day, what would you do with that extra hour?
Yeah, no, sleep. There's not enough hours in the day for me to sleep.
So true.
I was just talking to talking to my vocal coach right before this, and I was like, we were both just discussing how comfortably I run off of like 4 hours of sleep every day.
Wow.
So if I had 25 hours in a day, I'd be getting 5 hours of sleep. How great would that be?
That's amazing. Sleep is just one of the most underrated things in our modern culture.
Sleep is probably one of my like when I love a food, I get that food a lot. Or like when I love a certain song, I listen to that song a lot. Sleep is probably the only thing that I love in this world that I don't get a lot of. I love sleep,
Yeah.
don't get a lot of it
So
at all.
true. What aspect of your personality adds the most value to the world? I know, it's a hard question.
The tattoos. Sorry.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like the obvious answer is creativity,
Yeah.
like my creative side. But that's boring.
What's
So-
boring? Well, tell me why do you think
Yeah.
that? What do you think is boring about being creative?
It's not boring. I just feel like it's very broad. I
It
feel
is,
like
yeah.
everyone has a creative side that
Yeah.
they can offer something to the world. I feel like for me to just say creative is kind of like that's like a short answer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think if I were to really say what I have most to contribute, and I think there's a lot of creative people, there's a lot of talented people.
Yeah.
I think what I would have most to contribute is I think the side of myself that is flawed is the person that has the most to contribute.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people with talent, but take like modern day influencers and stuff that constantly are like on the punching bag to like getting beat up by everyone because they make these errors and they make these mistakes, and it's not because they're all bad people or they're all awful. It's because they're young and they make these errors and they don't have anyone guiding them. So I would say like what I have most to contribute is not necessarily my talent, but it's my experiences and how I can communicate that to people to either help prevent them from making those same mistakes, or how to take your pain and word it into a way where people can listen to it and stomach it and process it and not feel so alone. So I wouldn't say that like my creativity is what I have most to offer. It's my experiences to people and how to prevent those things or make those things happen.
Yeah, and you've learned from them and you've become better. I mean, we can see
Mistakes are yours. I've always said to people, it's not about making mistakes. Make as many mistakes as
Yeah.
you can in your life, but learn from them.
that. Yeah.
Don't make the mistake. Like Einstein said, insanity is repeating the same thing over again and expecting different results. If you
Yeah.
keep making the same mistake, bad things are going to keep happening.
Yeah.
So make the mistake, realize that you made the mistake, own it up to yourself, to the people around you, and then grow from it.
Yeah.
And the more mistakes you make, the wiser of a person you'll become.
Yeah, that's how you become a complex person who has
Yeah,
a personality and who's interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been one to make mistakes multiple times, but like I notice myself very rarely making the same mistake multiple times because I try to remember that, like with driving, it's okay. Don't do that again. Don't like don't
And
go.
next time you're in that situation, you'll be like, I was in this situation once and I did it wrong. I'm not gonna do that again.
Exactly. Would you mind sharing with our listeners just a little bit about your story?
Well, I grew up with just my dad, no siblings. My mom wasn't in the picture. My dad was in the entertainment business his whole life. Very, very, very talented man. Um, so by being in the entertainment business, when I was born, naturally, I would go on to be in the entertainment business and have that very heavily influenced throughout my life. By the time I was 8, I would say we were fully like off to the races, like full time focused on the on acting and music. I did a lot of that. I did a lot because I had great people around me, like my dad, and I accomplished a lot. Um, but I think I was just too ignorant and self-centered to see how grateful I should have been, how I by no means was like stuck up or snotty. I think I was just so wrapped up in my own self-pity and just I was just very just like upset. I was just a sad, angry, angsty kid. Extra for the age that I already would have been angsty. I times it by 5, and I was just angry all the time and felt like everyone should have felt pity for me or sad for me, and that led me down a path of bad choices and hanging out with kids that were by no means any good. They introduced me to things I shouldn't have been doing, and simultaneously while I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep on this appearance of goody two shoes, child star and all that, while inside I don't feel like that. I don't feel like an influence. I don't feel like a role model. On the inside, I feel like I'm worse than everyone I should be role modeling for. And the good people in my life, when they would say something, I would look at them and I took it like they were judging me. And it wasn't, and they were judging, but they were judging from a place of love. And I took it that, yo, you don't understand me. And that was always my issue. I never felt like anyone understood me. But that was also because I never talked about myself. I only created the surface level person. And that's as far as I let people get into.
You created
So
the barrier that you felt that you
absolutely.
were sad about people not being able to get through.
Right. So I got mad that no one could understand me, but I didn't let anyone in to understand me.
Yeah.
So self-sabotaging. I was setting myself up to feel lonely and feel lost, and bad things happened, man. I lost my dad, and I stopped talking for a while. Like I was off the deep end. I was not even working anymore. COVID was hitting, so I was not even acting. Like
Yeah.
I ended a relationship. I was cutting off friendships. I was just all over the place. I went from bright-eyed and smiley and loving the world to just feeling betrayed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
the
you
exact
know,
opposite. It's yeah, it's and when you mentioned it was there were people that you were hanging out with that were not good to hang around that introduced you to bad things. I can definitely relate. It's amazing how much other people can influence yourself. Peer pressure is so much a thing. And I like to say that I don't give in to peer pressure, but it's not true. It's not at all. I don't spend a lot of time around other people very much, especially socially, and so peer pressure is something that is just natural for me.
oh,
Um,
that's exactly my issue. I grew up an only child with no
Yeah.
friends. Really, I mean, I had friends, but not a lot of friends. And I
Yeah.
also wasn't in like my friends were not normal kids. So when I hung out with normal kids, these are kids that were living life in their way, not in the way of the arts and entertainment. These were kids that knew about parties. To me, parties were like events with like older people. Like you like
Yeah.
sit there, you'd go to like a red carpet event. Like that was a party to me. And then like the day I got walked into a frat party for the first time, when I was 15 years old, and I got walked into a frat party, and they love me because I'm the
Yeah.
Disney guy. It's like, oh my God, my sister loves this kid. Like, let's bring him in. Like, let's party.
Yeah.
And I felt accepted
Yeah.
by people that I shouldn't have wanted to feel accepted by. And that
Yeah.
carried with me. I constantly pleased the people that I shouldn't have been pleasing. And
Yeah.
I was letting down the people that I should have been accommodating and pleasing, like the ones that actually cared, the ones that actually wanted to see me do well. The day that I called everyone and said, I'm sober now, like, or when I went to a party and I was like, I'm sober now, like I'm good, I'm okay. I will never forget the looks I got and how many people walked away and stopped talking to me
Yeah.
because I was no longer a fun party guy. And for a while, it was hard. I sat there and I was like,
like, did you
I
make the
was
right
like,
decision?
yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, I felt more loved and cared about
Yeah.
than when I was like this. And now that I'm fixing myself, but then like I just stuck to it and surrounding myself by like cooler people, better people. I started really diving into my work and writing more,
Yeah.
letting it out, letting people in. Um, and then I realized all those people that were leaving my life were just toxic people that shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a hateful thing to them
No.
because they're just as lost as I've been.
Yeah.
And misery, my dad's always said, misery loves company.
Yeah.
And misery does not want to see someone do well. No, misery doesn't want to see
Yeah.
someone go sober. Misery doesn't want to see someone succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Misery wants people to fail because then they can all be miserable together. And it
It's
feels
true.
way better to be miserable with someone than be miserable alone.
Yeah. And I think the people you spend time around are the people you become. When you
Oh,
spend
yeah.
time around people who aren't the best, you start losing those values that you really cared about. I remember,
That's why I really admire people who are themselves
Yeah.
around, no matter who
Yeah.
no matter who they are around. And when you mentioned pleasing other people and pleasing the right people, it reminded me of my experiences. Excuse me. From being in school, like I knew I did not want to be friends with the kids, even if they were popular in school. That said, "Oh, you're that YouTuber? Cool, I'll be your friend."
Yeah.
I was like, so you want to be my friend because of that? You don't want to be my friend because of something else. Let's say I wasn't a YouTuber. Let's say I wasn't different. Let's say I was
Yeah.
just this random normal kid, or maybe someone who was having a hard time that was just didn't seem as attractive socially. And what would you do then? They chances are they wouldn't come up to you.
I'll tell you, that's the whole construct that the Joker movie that recently came out was built
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
It's a person that I will never forget. I hadn't cried I hadn't cried in like a year and a half
Yeah.
when I went to go see that movie. Not a single. I hadn't cried. I'd gone to see a bunch of movies. I'd had awful things. Hadn't cried once. I went to see that movie with my ex-girlfriend. We were watching it, and I watched the whole thing. I was fine. I remember getting up, but we were both dead quiet, didn't say a word. Got up, left the theater. We went down the escalator. Second we got to the bottom of the escalator, I had a full nervous breakdown in a bush. Like there was a bush right here, and I sat in the bush and I could not stop crying.
Yeah.
I was bawling. I couldn't control it. I'd gone manic. Like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. My eyes were so watery. Like it just all came out. And I realized because that's it, I was looking at something that understood how I was feeling.
Yeah.
I felt like I was just a clown for people to observe, but not to go underneath and understand. When I would see
And
people
interact
like
with.
Yeah.
he'd be beaten and then he'd get walked over,
Yeah.
and the way that it discussed the mental health and the one bad day away from just going overboard, that I feel like that's so relatable, like with what you're saying. Like if you take away the fame and you take away all the superficial things, take away all that and just bring it down to character, in the end, who will still be around you?
Yeah.
And that's something that when I wake up every day, I think to myself, would any of these things be around me? Would any of these people like me
Yeah.
if all that went away?
Yeah, a lot of people think like that the entertainment industry is all glamour and that I think entertainers live a really ideal life. What do you say to that?
I say, so there's always that famous quote that money can't buy happiness, right? And I noticed something, because my whole life I didn't grow up wealthy. I had to work really hard my whole life. And I remember when I got a break, I'd gotten some of my money from acting, and it was a good amount, and it was like the most amount of money that I'd had all to myself to just like have. And I'd spent so long working and so long doing things that I could never really get too wrapped up in my head. And now I had the money and I was comfortable. I didn't need to worry about anything. But then that's when I realized everything came back. Like everything that I'd been able to distract myself with because I was working so hard to get to a certain point, that when I finally got there, all the things that I dodged and pushed back and pushed to the side and ignored, there was time for all of that to come. And it's this horrible thing that I feel like people spend so much of their lives working that they almost keep themselves busy to ignore what's going on.
Yeah.
But once you reach success, you start realizing that you have a bit of free time now and again.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of time to look at yourself, and either you go, I love myself, I'm the greatest thing in the whole world, nothing's better than me, and you become a self-centered narcissistic person, or you go to the other side where you say, I hate what I am looking at and I don't want to be this person anymore. And then you go into the other side, which is the depression, and then that's when you see people constantly changing their looks, and they're constantly changing things about themselves because they're trying to make themselves into a person that they can look at and accept.
Yeah.
And that's the epitome of me. I mean, I changed style, I changed hair, I did this, I got a tattoo to try and help me feel better. I tried to just cope in any way that I could think it would help me. And ultimately what helped me most was stopping all of that and just grabbing a piece of paper and just writing songs. It was the thing that was right in front of me the whole time that made me feel the best.
Yeah, I love writing music.
I do the same.
And-
I've written a few songs. I don't think they're great. Some of them are, but like I'm happy. it's so nice to pour your feelings into something.
Yeah, I think when I've been avoiding my emotions, like, it gets really bad, you're doing crazy things to not have a moment alone, and you just sit down and write how you're feeling. It's amazing how well that works. Yeah. I've tried a lot of coping mechanisms. There's
Uh,
a lot of things people don't talk about as self-harm, but really is a form of self-harm.
oh yeah. Besides the obvious, which
Yeah,
is, the self-harm and
yeah.
there is so many forms of coping.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure, like, I have discovered, I went through a phase where I would swim every
yeah,
day. I would just swim because, like, it was something to keep me busy.
yeah.
And I was just like, all right, I'll swim. It became so bad that I'd get such bad anxiety while swimming that one time I almost drowned
That's
because of
horrible.
how I've swam my whole life. I'm a very strong swimmer, almost drowned because the coping mechanism wasn't working for me.
Yeah,
So that I tried every coping mechanism. And
yeah,
when I finally just sat down with myself and just wrote down, it doesn't have to be a song, it can be a poem. It can just be how you're internalizing your feelings. Like, just that's all it really
Just some
comes down to.
words.
Yeah, just some words.
Do you feel the pressures of the entertainment industry? So yeah, we're going back into the entertainment a little bit. Do you feel the pressures of that attributed to the struggles you've had in life? Would you say that one kind of affects another, or do you think
I
kind
mean,
of
yeah,
entertainment has stayed out of that?
but yeah, of course, the entertainment, for someone to say that the entertainment business doesn't influence sadness, or yeah, 100%, you're put in a spotlight sometimes at a really young age.
yeah,
um I always say to people, I didn't ask to be a role model.
yeah,
I didn't ask to be an influence. I'm just trying to figure out the world like every other kid. Like,
yeah.
I'm not a role model. Like, yeah, when I'm 50, I'll be a role model. Like, I'll have this thing figured out a little
Yeah,
bit more. Like, what? I'm gonna be a role model to a 14-year-old? I've been alive like, what, 5 years longer?
yeah.
Like,
That's so
I
much
can't.
pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and that's what I always tell people. I'm not a role model. I am by no means a role model. If anything, take what I have done and almost in everything do the complete opposite. Like, take all my choices. Like, you see me, you go, wow, he's 18, he got a bunch of tattoos. Don't do that. If you see me, if you say, wow, he dropped out of college, don't do that. Like, don't do what I do. Like, I always tell people, like, I made these mistakes. You don't have to.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not a role model by any means, and I hope to, and honestly, like, I hope to inspire people, like,
yeah,
stylistically. I hope to show people, like, for guys even, like, I want to start like my own nail polish, like, for men, directed for men, to fight against toxic masculinity and
seriously, yeah,
piercing ears. It's not feminine to pierce your ears. It's just what you want to do. However
yeah,
you want to express yourself, you express yourself in those ways. So yeah, that's the only influence I'd ever like to tell people is be whoever you care to be and express yourself, as long as that person that you choose to be is positive in nature and doesn't express a bad or negative or hateful thing. But that's one thing. Obviously, with music, like, I'm not a role model. My actions that I do not want people to follow.
yeah,
I want people to express themselves as them. Don't be like me. Be you.
yeah,
Be don't, if you like something about me, then I'm appreciative. I'm so appreciative, but don't follow as I do. Be your own person. Like, that's what I
yeah,
always try and go.
yeah. Teens everywhere face pressure from school, parents, friends, jobs, or potential careers. How do you think teens can relieve that pressure in a safe and healthy way?
Um, I think we were just talking.
Yeah,
There's, like, ways of coping, and there's
yeah,
healthy and unhealthy ways to cope.
Everybody has their
Um,
different ways. Like, I can't say there is one way for this.
Yeah, and I
No.
think one thing can be healthy for one person and unhealthy for another.
I was talking to someone. Who was I? I was talking to someone, and I was telling them how much I love to meditate. I love to
Yeah.
meditate.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
really?
were they were telling me that meditation gives them horrible anxiety. They were like sitting
Horrible.
there. They were like sitting there with like the music and the candles. They were like, it gives me awful anxiety. And I was
Yeah.
like, really? Because I was trying to tell them how to cope with anxiety.
Yeah.
I love to meditate. It's really like healthy for me, and it like
Yeah.
helps me get into it. And they're like, I can't do it. They're like
That's funny.
I can't meditate.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone's form is different as long as it is healthy.
Yeah.
You know, so for some people going on a run, some people
Yeah.
going to the gym, some people watching TV.
Yeah.
I think the healthiest forms of coping are things that can also contribute to you as a person, whether it's
Yeah.
learning an instrument or you know just putting your mind towards something good, or whether it's even just calling someone and talking to them. Like
Yeah.
you have to find your own cope
Yeah.
healthily,
I think
because
deciding who you want to be and what a healthy you looks like, and then taking steps towards that.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's healthy coping.
I'd say I know I said there wasn't one answer for this, but my one answer for this is to pursue your hobbies. Like everybody has a hobby. Do it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it really does take your mind off things. And it's and sometimes I try to push myself in those hobbies almost to the point of having anxiety, but then it strengthens me in some
Yeah.
ways. Like looking for snakes is fun for me because I like being out in the wild. It really calms me. It's really nice.
Right.
But then a part of me is like, you're in the middle of nowhere all alone. Now I get a little scared.
That might be valid. Maybe you should listen to
love
that
that.
anxiety.
Maybe you should listen.
That is a way that one would feel if they are out in the wilderness alone.
Yeah.
But I also agree with that. I love we have the Griffith Observatory, and I love going and like sitting in the woods and just like being amongst nature. It's like my favorite thing in the world. Like I love it. In the ocean, like sitting on the sand. If you were to, I'm like a hippie almost. Like if you were to tell me what's your ideal like vacation, it'd be like a nice, cool like airstream, a truck, and just like going around to like wilderness and like exploring
You would
places.
love Utah. It's all
Oh,
wilderness.
I've been to Utah. I love it. I went to Salt Lake
Yeah.
2 years ago, and it was so fun. Loved it.
Have you been to Arches National Park?
I haven't, no.
That's a good place to go to. It's one of my favorites. Around there, there's also a place called Goblin Valley. The places around there, the rock formations and the trails, it's like being in a video game. It's really,
Oh, no
really
way.
cool.
That's
It's
sick.
That's a good way of describing it. Yeah.
like Goblin Valley was perfect to describe that because it
Yeah.
made me feel like a character in a video game in the sense that you can walk to the end of the valley, you can go over and under rocks, and once you get to the end of the valley, there's a cliff, and you can't go past that cliff, but you can see beyond that cliff, and it's just and it looks nothing like the valley. It's just back to desert.
Yeah.
It looks
I love
very
that.
different, but you know you can't go down there. It's just dangerous.
Sounds
It's
like
like
it
being
sounds
in,
like it's in a video game, Goblin Valley. It sounds like something that'd be in a video game.
it's very video game like, and the trails to go to different arches. Sand Dune Arch is really cool because it's an arch that is basically in a rock formation that is very straight up, and you're going through this very narrow path between these
Oh, so
rocks, and
it's
so
like
it's
a-
almost like going into a building because it's much cooler in there. It's almost always shaded. There's a lot more sand in there, so it's going out from desert to sand, almost like you're in a building, but it's just
Love
natural
that.
rock.
That's so sick.
Yeah,
That is
check.
so sick.
Go to
I'll have to go
Arches.
I will. That sounds sick. I will have to. Very cool.
Sharing your story with us shows an incredible amount of strength that you have. What advice would you give teens and young adults who are struggling with depression, drug addiction, or suicidal ideation?
Communication is, I've come to learn, fundamentally at the core of everything.
Yeah.
If you want anything strong in this world, you will have to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was just saying this to someone a few days ago. I said, you can't hurt me as long as you talk to me.
Yeah.
If you talk to me and you communicate how you are feeling, you cannot hurt me
Mm-hmm.
that bad, because I will know what's going on.
If you were
If
talking
you,
about feelings that you cannot control, then
right,
then you have no right to blame them for it.
sure.
Like, so yeah, don't be offended if someone doesn't like your appearance or whatever, if that is how just what naturally happens.
Right. And I know that that's such a, people always say, well, you got to talk to someone, and that's such a difficult thing. Like, trust me, even for me now, I still struggle to like talk to someone
Yeah.
about things, you know, when
Yeah.
what like deep. But you all, it's hard because trust, and especially, you know, I have had a lot of people walk away from me. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard telling things that are close to you
Yeah.
to someone that you think might leave, and they're taking those secrets that you
Oh,
hold
yeah.
so dearly with them,
Yeah.
and they can go and run and go tell whoever else. So that's a horrifying thing. I
Yeah.
know that sometimes those people do betray you, and they do go and tell something that was really personal to you, and then you get embarrassed, or you get,
Yeah.
and it sucks because your trust has been betrayed. But that's why for me, coping became an instrument. Is not going to go run and tell someone
Yeah.
how I felt the night before. That page that I wrote, if I don't want anyone to read it, I can put down exactly how I feel, no matter how dark, no matter how happy, no matter how whatever it may have said. If
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anyone to read that page, I can burn it.
Yeah.
It goes away, and if you can put that onto that, it helps. And like that's honestly what's helped me the most, because I still struggle talking to people
Yeah.
on like a deep level. I can go surface level. I can be like, yeah, I've struggled, and but I struggle going to like the deep places of you know, my depression and pain and stuff like that. But my music, if you want to, I always tell people, if you want to know how I'm feeling, just read my recent songs.
Yeah.
If you want to see how I was the night before, just ask to see my songs.
Yeah.
And because in music or in poetry, you can hide honestly awful things
It's
and
true.
make it sound beautiful. You can say the darkest things and make it sound so pretty, and
Yeah.
you can hide your pain in there and then express it, and people will sing along,
Yeah.
or you
Ring
know,
around the rosy, pocket full of posies.
yeah, that was like about the Black Death, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you would
Or
not listen.
it's about what's
It's about the Black Plague.
I don't
Yeah,
think
Black
so.
Yeah. In
Plague
Oh, maybe it
the
around
is. I don't know.
1600s, I think.
Yeah.
pocket
Don't
full.
quote me on that, but
I think it is Ring Around the Rosie. That's about the Black Death, Black Plague.
yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think finding a strong support system is obviously really important,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's easier said than done. Far easier said than done. To the point where I'm still working on that, finding a strong support system. But you know, I have the couple people. I know my dad is always a strong support system,
Yeah.
but no one knows more than me how hard it is sometimes to talk to your parents about dark things, especially like I was someone that let my dad down constantly.
Yeah.
And then when I was actually doing things that were like horrible, I was like, if I've let him down already this much by things that are like a fraction of this bad,
Mm-hmm.
imagine how he's gonna feel with this other stuff.
When
So
he
I felt
finds out the truth.
right, and I felt embarrassed and didn't want to talk to him about it.
Yeah.
And no one knows more than me. I was never that kid that would, and it's not his fault. It's just how I felt about it. I was never that kid that would tell my dad when I liked a girl, or tell my dad when I was going through it, or tell my dad when I was feeling. I never felt like that. I
Yeah.
felt embarrassed to tell him, and it wasn't because of anything he did. It was just how I felt. So I know that sometimes people are like, "Oh, go talk to your parents. Go talk to." Well, no, that's not that easy. Like sometimes you feel like they'll judge you, or it's sometimes some people just don't have that support system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes they do judge you. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, I don't want that to be my kid." You know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it can be
absolutely.
hard, and that's why I feel so thankful to have the parents that I have that are like super supportive.
Yeah, I
Right.
think finding multiple people. You can't have your support system be all one person because one
No,
person
yeah,
is easy to lose. So,
100.
spreading your support system out and finding people that you trust and you can share with and who will tell you when you're wrong. Tell you to
Yeah, no.
stop.
Someone that'll tell you you're wrong, and then not just tell you you're wrong, but they'll break it down to you why you're wrong and how
Yeah.
you can fix it.
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of people just tell me like, "Hey, you're screwed," and then they don't,
Thanks.
they don't do anything more than that. Like
Yeah.
they're just like, "Hey, you're screwed up," and
Oh,
I'm like,
thanks for the
"I
advice,
know.
man.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. You got any suggestions on how I can fix this?"
Yeah.
And no, man, I'm a good one. Just know you're screwed up. And then that's all it goes to. And
Yeah.
it doesn't help. Letting someone know that they're not okay. Trust me, they know that they're not okay. Like
It's the
no one
people
knows.
it's the people who will sit with you when you're not okay and
Yeah,
who will be there
100,
with you
definitely.
when
Yeah. And
when
sometimes
it's not
just
easy.
sometimes it's just the company.
Yeah.
Because I've had days where I haven't wanted to talk about how I'm feeling,
Yeah.
but I know that I didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
So I've just texted someone and been like, "Hey, you want to just hang out?" And like we've just sat there,
Yeah.
and they don't know that inside they are helping me so much just by sitting there.
Yeah.
And I don't tell them a word about it. They don't even know. They're just sitting there chilling on TikTok or on Instagram, just chilling. And in my brain, I'm like, wow, I feel so much better now because I got out of my shell and I pulled myself out of this place instead of just letting myself sit and rot. I made the effort to get myself out of this headspace.
Yeah. And that takes a lot. It really
All
Yeah,
right.
does.
I got one last question for you.
throw it at me.
What's next for you?
It's a good question. You tell me.
All right, you're gonna come to Utah. We're gonna catch some lizards. No.
Oh yeah, love that. All right, actually, I caught a little baby lizard the other day.
Nice.
He was running around inside here, and I picked him up, and my roommate was horrified. And I actually there was a grasshopper on the fridge last night, and so my roommate was gonna kill him, and I was like, "Don't kill the grasshopper." So, like, I grabbed a plate and a little thing because like I don't like when it flies in my hand. That makes me feel weird.
Yeah.
So but no, what's next? Podcast. um,
We were just talking about you.
I was just talking about you. What's next? So, I am taking a small break from acting right now, mainly to just focus on music. I've been writing for artists, writing people's music. I love to write, and I've been working on my own songs as well. That kind of focus around the topics of what we're talking about and pain and sadness and failure between relationships and all of that. Things that I think will be very relatable. Um, so I'm focusing heavily on music right now. Of course, I took a long break from social media. I've recently come back, been making content again. I'd like to get my YouTube channel kicked back up. A lot of traveling. Hopefully, now that things are calming down a little bit, I hope I'll be able to get to do a lot of traveling because I finally was like, I'm an adult, I can travel, and then I couldn't travel anywhere.
I know. It's so sad.
It sucked. So yeah, I hope to get some traveling done, and then and yeah, just really focus on myself and not get too wrapped up because I felt like I did that a lot. I put so much pressure on myself of like, oh, I gotta. Last year I did this and this, so by this year I need to do this and this and this. You know, like I felt the constant need to one up myself. So now I've kind of let that go, and now I'm focused on music, my passion I've had since I was a little kid, building stronger friendships, working on companies that I can start developing. Like I was talking about, like with nails, like men's nail polish line, against toxic masculinity, and just start kind of on the next forms of life. And I had thought about maybe starting to write a book of poetry, like start to publish books and stuff like that. So I don't know. I definitely I just knew that I needed a break from acting to give myself, I don't want to quit by any means. I spent way too long learning how to do something to just quit. I just needed a break because I got really wrapped up in the headspace. And when you're constantly playing different people, sometimes it's hard to find who you are, but you're constantly someone else. So it's nice to take the time to just take time to be yourself. And then once I got a good grip on that, I can go right back into it and find my piece again. I'm sure the roles I'll be doing will be far different because, you know, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the future. It's going towards a positive place. My roommate just ran by with.
I can see in the reflection.
You saw the reflection. They saw your ass running, buddy.
That was beautiful.
That was. Yeah, I just lemonade splotching off the side of his Popeyes.
Just running with these things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in my room. We'd like to thank the very talented and thoughtful Isaak Presley for sharing with us his personal journey and his insights into healing. You can follow Isaak on Instagram and TikTok at Isaak Presley.
Everyone deals with pressure in their life. It's how you react that matters. We can either be a pipe and burst under the pressure, or that same pressure can mold us into a diamond. If you're struggling under the weight of pressure or expectations, ask for help. And if you're having thoughts of suicide, please speak up and ask for help. You are not alone. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255.
Great podcast today. Thank you again to Isaak Presley for joining us. A special thanks to my co-host, Grace. It was great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, a huge thank you to everyone for listening to this episode of the Teens4Wellness podcast. And remember, you matter.